Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're diving into the world of electric vehicles, but we're not talking about Tesla or California. Buckle up, because we're heading straight to Rwanda.
Rwanda. For electric vehicles. Wow, that's a curveball I wasn't expecting.
Right, I know. It definitely surprised me too. So we have this report from the UN Environment Program, UNP, and let me tell you, it reads more like an adventure novel than a dry policy document.
Yeah, UNP is doing some really impressive work in this space. They're supporting this global shift towards electric mobility, especially in developing countries. And what's really fascinating here is that Rwanda seems to be, leading the charge in Africa.
Leading the charge. I like that. The report even mentions people mistaking, get this, EV charging stations for petrol stations in Kigali, their capital city. That's how quickly this whole thing is unfolding. So, quick question for you. When I say electric vehicle revolution, what's the first country that pops into your head?
Honestly, probably Norway or maybe Japan. Definitely not an African nation.
Exactly. Mine either. But Rwanda is showing us that tackling things like air pollution and climate change, it isn't limited by geography. It's about taking action, and that's where this whole thing gets really interesting.
Rwanda's motivation goes beyond just clean air, though.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's a huge factor, of course, but think about it. Like many developing nations, they import a significant amount of their fuel. That's a major economic drain.
Okay, so by going electric, they're also aiming for energy independence. Smart move. But how can a smaller nation afford such a massive overhaul of their transportation system? That's what had me scratching my head at first.
Well, it's not just about affording it, it's about the long game. The report highlights that switching to electric motorcycles alone, and they have a lot of those, could save them a whopping $22 million every year in fuel imports. Now multiply that across all vehicles.
Okay, now we're talking serious savings, but let's get specific. How is Rwanda actually doing this? It's one thing to set goals, but another to put plans into action. What are some concrete steps they're taking?
Rwanda has a really multifaceted approach, which I think is a big part of their success so far. It's a combination of government incentives, infrastructure development, and public awareness campaigns. For example, they're offering some pretty significant tax breaks for anyone who buys an electric vehicle.
Tax breaks, huh? I like the sound of that. But what about, the infrastructure? Charging stations aren't exactly as common as corner stores, are they? Especially in a country like Rwanda, right?
That's the thing. They're making them as common as corner stores. Well, maybe not literally, but Rwanda is serious about building a really robust charging network, and not just in the cities, even in rural areas.
Okay, now that's impressive. But hold on. Electric vehicles still kind of feel like a luxury for a lot of people, even in developed countries, right? So how are they making this accessible to, everyday Rwandans? Surely not everyone can afford a brand new electric car.
You're right, and that's where this homegrown approach really shines. They're not just importing a bunch of fancy electric cars. I mean, those exist too. But they've really fostered the growth of local companies like Ampersand, for example.
Ampersand, what do they do?
They manufacture electric motorcycles. And not just any motorcycles, these are designed specifically for the Rwandan market. They're affordable, durable, perfect for navigating, their terrain.
Wow. Homegrown electric motorcycles. That's brilliant. So they're tailoring the tech to the people, not the other way around. This is way more innovative than I ever imagined.
Exactly. And it's not just in the cities either. The report describes electric trucks delivering goods to people in rural villages, completely transforming how these communities can access essential supplies. It's a nationwide revolution, not just an urban phenomenon.
Okay. I am officially blown away. This is amazing. But this all sounds incredibly expensive. Are they getting help from outside sources to pull this off? Or is Rwanda funding all of this themselves?
It's a mix of both, actually.
Yeah.
The initial cost was definitely, a hefty sum, $900 million. That did involve international partnerships and such. But here's the kicker. They're set to recoup that investment pretty quickly.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, remember those fuel import savings we talked about earlier? Those alone are huge. Plus, by reducing their reliance on fossil fuels, they're also cutting down on harmful greenhouse gas emissions. And that has long-term economic and environmental benefits.
So it's an investment in a greener, healthier future and in their own economic independence. It all seems so incredibly thought out.
Exactly. They're aiming to electrify 20% of their buses, 30% of motorcycles, and 8% of all cars by 2030.
Wow.
Ambitious, Yeah, for sure. But based on what we've seen from them so far, I definitely wouldn't bet against them.
I wouldn't either, not after hearing all of this. But let's be real for a second. There have to be some challenges, right? It can't all be smooth sailing towards a fully electric future.
You're absolutely right. Even with the most ambitious plans, there are always going to be bumps in the road.
So what are some of those bumps in the road for Rwanda? What obstacles are they facing in this whole, electric vehicle revolution?
Well, one of the biggest ones is like the upfront cost of electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Even with those tax breaks we talked about, there's still a pretty significant investment for people, especially in a developing country. They're working on some creative financing solutions and encouraging local manufacturing of more affordable models, but it's definitely an ongoing process.
That makes sense. What about charging infrastructure, especially in those more remote areas? That's got to be a challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Expanding that charging network to those rural communities, it's no easy feat, but they're thinking outside the box with it. Things like solar-powered charging stations and even mobile charging units.
Mobile charging units?
Yeah, basically it's like a truck that comes to you and charges your vehicle. Pretty cool, right?
That's amazing. That's so smart.
But yeah, making sure everyone has equitable access, it's a work in progress.
See, that's what I find so fascinating about all of this. They're not just like throwing money at the problem and hoping for the best. They're coming up with genuinely inventive solutions and tailoring them to their specific context. It's like they're writing the playbook as they go along.
You got it. They're pioneers, really, in a lot of ways, and my guess is their experience is going to serve as a model for other developing nations looking to make that leap to electric mobility.
Yeah, absolutely. So from dodging petrol stations to homegrown electric motorcycles, Rwanda is proving that sustainability isn't some, luxury, it's an opportunity.
Exactly. They're showing the world that even a small nation can be a leader in innovation and sustainability on a global scale.
Okay, last question. If our listeners could take away just one thing from this whole deep dive, what would you want it to be?
I think Rwanda's story is this powerful reminder that the future isn't like preordained, It's something we create through the choices we make today. And they have chosen a path of innovation, sustainability, and resilience. That's a powerful message for everyone.
Could not agree more. Big thanks to you for sharing all of this with us. And to all of you, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those big questions.